The alien egg-morphing subplot wasn't just another deleted scene. It was an idea hatched early that was thought up and filmed before it disappeared from the final theatrical cut. It became an urban legend. Its only documented account was found in the 1979 novelization. For years, fans debated the legitimacy of this removed piece of lore. By the mid-1980s came the VHS, pre-recorded movies in cassette form, right on my television whenever I wanted. Of course I got my very own copy. To my surprise, after screening it at home, scenes that I swore were in the movie were not, until they were. Today I'm going to discuss the myths, my misconceptions, and the mystery behind the infamous Cocoon scene. But before I do, please consider a like, share, or subscribe if you enjoy this video. I'd rather not use the word canon. I more like sharing my interpretation of Alan Dean Foster's novelization, which was crafted from and inspired by an early draft of the screenplay by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett that was finally made fitting the vision of its director, Ridley Scott. Who's to know the differences between what we thought were truly original concepts and the changes that occur through production? But we will dream what could have been. I'm going with a timeline in chronological order. It begins with the novelization from 1979 to the VH release of Alien. Mine's the 1984 issue with hi-fi stereo, since that's what I have. Then it's a 1986 release of Aliens. The Cocoon scene was included in the international version of the Laserdisc in 1992. However, I'll be referencing the director's cut that was released to the US market in 2004, and I just might make a reference to Prometheus in 2012. Ripley felt her way down the ladder until she reached solid footing. Then she activated her light bar. She was in a small maintenance chamber. The light picked out plastic crates, rarely used tools. It also fell on bones with shreds of flesh still attached. Her skin crawled as the light moved over fragments of clothing, dried blood, a ruined boot. Bizarre extrusions lined the walls. Let's begin with the bizarre extrusions lining the walls of the engine room. The first visual that came to me was the bio-made architecture Ripley discovers. The walls were made from broken bone, blood, and tattered clothes. Immediately, I thought of the derelict ship, which I had thought from the beginning was not originally designed by its creators. Something moved fitfully in the darkness. She spun, raising the nozzle of the flamethrower as her light sought out the cause of the movement. A huge cocoon hung from the ceiling off to her right. It looked like an enclosed translucent hammock. Woven from fine white silky material, it twitched. There was a body inside, Dallas. With references to spiders and wasps, I had this idea that the xenomorph immobilizes prey, similar to a spider's cocoon, that over time hardened. In fact, the word silk is used to describe what the cocoon is made from. A second cocoon hung there, different in texture and color from the first. It was smaller and darker, the silk having formed a hard, shining shell. It looked, although Ripley couldn't know it, like the broken, empty urn on the derelict ship. That was Brett. Now we come to the part of Brett's cocoon hardening over time into the shape of a vase. This is a reference to an earlier passage of the book that was not included in the film. When exploring the derelict ship, Dallas's light fell unexpectedly on a shape that was not part of wall or floor. It appeared to be a smallish urn or vase, tan in color, glossy in aspect. Moving closer, he tilted his head over the jagged, broken top, shone the light inside. Empty. Disappointed, he walked away. Admittingly, this was an oversight on my part. I took the word vase literally, as in an ancient alien artifact, sort of what we saw in Prometheus. Furthermore, Kane told Dallas that the egg-shaped objects in the cargo hold looked similar to what was seen earlier up above. Ripley was remembering Ash's analogy of the spider, the wasp, the live young feeding on the paralyzed body of the spider, growing, the spider aware of what was happening, but somehow she managed to shut off that horrid line of thought, the same agonized whisper, "Kill me." What was Dallas suffering from that begged Ripley to put him out of his misery? The novel put the idea in my head that Dallas was the paralyzed spider waiting for the wasp egg planted inside him to hatch. It doesn't help that the novelization writes Dallas's eyes had closed, but his lips were trembling, as if he were readying a scream. Ripley didn't think she could stand to hear that scream. The nozzle of the flamethrower rose, and she convulsively depressed the trigger. A molten blast enveloped the cocoon and the thing that had been Dallas. It and he burned without a sound. Fast forward to circa 1984, when I got the chance to watch the movie at home. To my surprise, the cocoon scene was not there. Mind you, I didn't know it was filmed at the time. While it was omitted from the general release, I took the knowledge from the book as background lore. Without going too deep into how James Cameron chose to go in his own direction with Aliens, to the pre-internet common fan of Alien, this was our first opportunity to see how the horrors from the original tied into its follow-up. Let's examine how close Aliens came to my conclusions from the book. The book was explicit how the interior of the derelict ship was not original and constructed later, implying xenomorph intervention. This would be followed through in the engine room. However, unless you read the book, you could argue otherwise. The first connection between the book, Alien and Aliens, reveals the re-engineering of the interior, with very alien and disturbing designs. If you noticed, Ripley disavowed seeing anything like it before, distancing herself from the cocoon scene. I had thought of the cocoon having been made from silk and used to immobilize victims for the chestburster. Aliens changed the material from hardened silk to an excreted resin, which is not a huge departure from the original film, since Dallas comes across an icky Vaseline type substance in the air ducts. But the vision that stood out is seeing the victims stuck to walls waiting for a gruesome fate. None of them look like they've turned into eggs, which only made me more zealous about what I took away or not took away from the book. Perhaps Aliens gave us a glimpse of what we would have seen if Alien followed more closely to the novelization by showing an emptied egg, an open hollow vase or urn. When the Colonial Marines found a live one, she made a direct reference from the novelization by begging, "Kill me." Now, since Aliens showed eggs and dried up facehuggers, this immediately discarded the idea from the book that a single xenomorph could reproduce without one. We would know later where these eggs came from. Now on to the director's cut. First, we see how immediate a xenomorph species works to re-engineer an environment. Aliens went with an aesthetic resembling epoxy and superglue with a very bluish tint. The alien cocoon scene was bronze and oily. There's a subtle graphic match between the two films. Each will have a touch and feel moment. They are subtly different. Dallas's purpose of being Cocoon is ambiguous at first. Don't be too easily influenced by what Ripley says in Aliens.
You can't. Right now they're being cocooned just like the others.
Keep in mind, Cameron and Scott departed from this alternative scene. What we see in Brett, his body undergoing a transmutation, is a visual match of him morphing into an egg. Brett's energy and bodily nutrients transformed, repurposed as you will, into an egg. His heart, his soul, will be one belonging to a facehugger. But what of Dallas? For the longest time, I made the mistake of trying to retrofit the novelization into a scene, as awesome I think it was, that was dropped from the film, its lore and canon. I really bought into Dallas being injected with a parasite, more so than slowly turning into an egg. While the book mentions wasps burying an egg into a spider, neither the theatrical release nor the director's cut made any references to them. Though I read the text in the book that Dallas may soon suffer a chestburster moment, the film sequence does no such thing. Dallas's plea, later mimicked in its sequel, was for different reasons, though equally horrible. So yeah, what was filmed was abbreviated from the book. Dallas and Brett were becoming eggs. That's pretty horrifying by itself. So, whatever became of this alternative lore after the scene became more public? Nothing really. The closest I heard about revisiting this topic was right before the release of Prometheus. Attributing this to possibly false memory, I recall there was supposed to be a shocking reveal about the origins of the xenomorph, and possibly it could be eggmorphing. While there were reveals, there was nothing about eggs. A brief internet search found nothing, so maybe I'm just crazy. And with Alien Romulus set to release, new lore is suggested, but no hints yet about eggmorphing. We'll just have to wait and see. This is Mr. G of Synergy. Check out another one of my alien videos, or go with something else. Thanks for watching.